Gemini CLI just received a massive upgrades and it comes with 5 brand new features. And here is the best part. If you stay with me until the end, I will also show you a few extra updates from Gemini's IntelliJ Code Assist and their latest release notes. These are bonus improvements that developers, especially those working on real projects, are really going to love. Let's start with the first big feature, and honestly, it's one of my favorites, checkpointing. Now, if you have ever worked on code, you already know the pain. You let an AI or even yourself make a big change and suddenly things break. Maybe the file looks messy or worse, your code stops running and you're stuck wondering how to get back to the version that actually worked. That's the problem checkpointing solves. Here is how it works. Every time Gemini CLI makes a change to your code, it quietly saves a restore point in the background. Think of it like a safety net or like having auto-save drafts of your project. So if something goes wrong, you don't have to panic. You just type the command /restore and Gemini will show you a list of snapshots with exact timestamps. You pick the version you want and in seconds, your file rolls back to that point. The best way to use checkpointing is to keep it always on. You can do this by adding it into your settings.json so you never forget. And here is a tip. If something feels even a little off, restore early instead of waiting until the problem gets bigger. Also try not to pile too many edits on top of each other without testing. Restore points are most helpful when you use them step by step. The biggest benefit here is confidence. You don't have to be afraid of letting Gemini touch your files anymore. If it makes a mistake or if you don't like the changes, you have always got a safety net to bring your code back. It makes experimenting with Gemini a lot less stressful and a lot more fun. The second feature is all about making your workflow smoother. Editor integration with VS Code and Cursor. Now, if you have ever used Gemini CLI before, you probably know the little hustle of switching back and forth between your terminal and your editor just to see what edits were made. It slows you down and sometimes you even lose track of what exactly was changed. With this new update, you don't have to deal with that anymore. Gemini now integrates directly with VS Code and Cursor, which means all the AI's edits show up in real time right inside your editor. You can see the differences line by line, almost like you are doing a git diff, but without leaving your coding environment. Setting up is pretty straightforward. First, you install something called the Gemini CLI Companion from the marketplace. Then restart your editor to activate it. After that, you go back to your terminal and type the command IDE enable and then confirm with IDE status. If everything is connected properly, Gemini will instantly start feeding edits into your IDE. Now the companion extension is super important because sometimes direct integration can be a bit finicky. The extension basically fills the gaps and makes sure your workflow stays smooth without glitches or interruption. To give you a real-world example, imagine you are migrating your backend from Superbase to NeonDB. Normally, you would have to check your terminal logs to see what Gemini did. But with integration, you will see the exact imports Gemini updates, which lines it removes, and which new ones it adds, all in real time, directly in your editor. The third feature is all about saving time when you are starting with a new or complex project. Let's be honest, jumping into a fresh codebase without any background knowledge is tough. You spend hours trying to figure out what tech stack it's using, how the authentication works, which environment variables you need, and what dependencies are installed. Until you have that context, you are basically coding blind. That's exactly where the new /init command comes in. When you run /init, Gemini creates a special file called gemini.am.md. Think of this file as a quick cheat sheet for your project that Gemini itself can reference every time you ask for help. So what does gemini.am.md include? It neatly lists things like the tech stacks you are using, say React for the frontend, Clack for authentication, or NeonDB for your database. It also explains how your authentication flow works, which environment variables are required, and which dependencies your project relies on. Basically, it's the background info that a smart coding partner needs to avoid mistakes. The best part is that once this file is created, Gemini automatically uses it as context for every future session. That means when you ask Gemini to fix or edit something, it doesn't wander off track. It already knows your setup, so it makes smarter suggestions and avoids wrong turns that waste time. The benefit for you is simple: faster onboarding if you are new to a project and much more accurate AI edits if you are already deep into development. Instead of Gemini guessing about your stack, it's grounded in the actual details of your project from the start. The fourth feature is a real productivity booster, saving and resuming chats. If you have ever worked on a long project with Gemini, you know the struggle. Once the session resets or you close it, all the context you build up is gone. You then have to re-explain everything to Gemini, which is not only frustrating but also wastes valuable time. This update fixes that by letting you save your chats and come back to them later. It's almost like bookmarking your progress with Gemini. The commands are really simple. If you want to save your current session, you type /chat save name. Later, if you want to see all your saved chats, just type /chat list. And when you are ready to continue where you left off, type /chat resume name. And Gemini will reload the exact conversation with all its context. Here is a tip to make this feature even more useful. Don't use boring or generic names like project 1 when you save. Instead, give it a descriptive name like new database integration. That way, you will instantly know what the chat contains without having to guess. This isn't just handy for solo developers, it's also super practical for teams. Imagine one teammate saves a session after working on a bug fix. Another teammate can then resume the chat the next day and pick up right where things were left off. The fifth feature is all about handling real-world projects more easily. Multi-workspace directory support. Now, most of us don't work on projects that live in just one neat little folder. In reality, projects often span across multiple folders or even separate services. For example, you might have your backend code in one directory and your frontend code in another. Switching back and forth between them can get messy pretty quickly, right? With this new update, Gemini now lets you load multiple directories into the same workspace. That means you can work across different folders without constantly leaving Gemini or setting things up separately each time. The steps to use it are really simple. First, run /directory add path to add a new folder. Then, if you want to confirm everything is set up, type /directory show to see the list of directories that are active. Once that's done, you can start coding seamlessly across all those folders at the same time. So before we end the video, let's quickly go over some extra updates that came to Gemini for Google Cloud and IntelliJ Code Assist. These might not sound as flashy as the big 5 features, but trust me, if you are a developer, they will make your daily workflow much smoother. On September 9, 2025, IntelliJ Gemini Code Assist was updated to version 1.29.0. This update added 2 very useful features. First, you can now attach terminal output directly to the chat context. That means if you run a command in the terminal and something breaks, you don't have to copy paste the error message. Gemini can see the output and help you fix it right away. Second, there is now a quick option to regenerate the last response. So if Gemini gives you an answer that isn't quite right, you can ask it to try again instantly without retyping your whole prompt. On September 4th, Gemini added a new users monitoring dashboard. This is especially handy for teams because it lets you see how much Gemini Code Assist is being used across your organization. You get a clear picture of user stats in one place. On September 3rd, another cool improvement came in. Now you can use the @ symbol to mention a remote repository when starting a prompt. This tells Gemini exactly which repo to focus on, so the answers are more relevant to the codebase you actually care about. It's like pointing Gemini in the right direction instead of letting it guess. And finally, on September 2nd, IntelliJ Gemini Code Assist version 1.28.0 rolled out. This one added support for multiple chats, so you can keep different conversations separate instead of mixing everything into one. You can also edit a prior prompt and regenerate Gemini's answer based on the updated version, which saves you from having to start over from scratch. Last but not least, there is the GitHub release tracking. The 0.3.x release series has now been finalized, and as of September 9, 2025, the 0.4.x version is officially the new stable release. So if you're upgrading, that's the version to look for. All of these extras might seem small individually, but together they really improve the overall developer experience. It's clear that Gemini isn't just adding big flashy features, it's also polishing the little things that make coding day-to-day easier. I would love to hear from you. Out of all these features, which one are you most excited about? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I will be checking them out. If you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell icon so you never miss future updates. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.